Welcome to Laughter for All. It's the podcast with Comedian Nazareth.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laughter for All podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth, and thank you for joining me for episode number 204. 204 in this beautiful March 20th. Oh, my Lord. Where did March go? We just started the year yesterday, and it's already March. And so, anyway, we're in March. So, praise God. We're still alive. We're still going. I thought by now I'll have a flying vehicle. I don't. I have a pilot, a Honda pilot, but it's not flying anywhere. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing it with your friends. Laughter for all. It's about not laughter. We get laughter, but it's about being real and talking to people. Last week I had Pastor Matt Brown from Sandal Church who wrote his book, Every Day a Miracle. And today I have someone else who's a comedian. It's been a while since I had a comedian on because of what's going on in the Middle East. I did not, as you know, I haven't done a lot of shows, and I haven't, put anything funny on on my social media since October. I did not. And the war's still going on. The killing's still going on. So I just can't. But I have a friend that I wanted to bring on the show before this whole thing happened. But I'm so glad she became available today. She's a very, very funny comedian. But more than that, her heart to help other comedians and other comedians. I saw what she does for the Christian Comedy Association, which some of you don't know about the Christian Comedy Association. We started this probably 20 years ago, and it was just a group of comedians, Shonda, myself, and a few others. And we got together at the Funny Farm in Nashville, and we prayed and we broke bread together, and we decided, hey, we're not going to be lone rangers doing comedy in different places alone. We're going to just get together once a year and you know pray for one another, lift one another up. And it's just great. It grew to over 300 some people. I was the president for a couple times, and it was it feels good to be able to be part of something that's really helping other comedians who's going to go out and help other people. So that's what the Christian Comedy Association is all about. So um anyway, I don't want to take much of your time, but I just want if I forget to say it at the end, may you have a happy resurrection day that's coming. This is Passion Week. I've been fasting from sugar for the last 40 days, and I broke the fast this Sunday, and I weighed myself, and I gained 3.5 pounds. I think sugar was making me lose weight, but anyway, this is what happened. So I'm back to eating sugar, and let's see how that's my new diet. Just eat sugar and carb and see where it goes. Anyway, Leslie Rob, that's the person I was telling you about. I love her heart. She's beautiful on the outside and the inside, and she's amazing. She's an award winning international stand up comedian, teacher, speaker, and PD presenter. I don't know what PD will find from her. She brings comedy encouragement and professional development sessions to stages, conferences, and social media worldwide. Her videos have brought laughter to millions across her social media platforms, which prompted an article about her in the Washington Post. Leslie Robb travels all over the country. She's been seen on the Board Teachers Comedy Tour, Teachers Do Stand Up Tour, The Unknown Tour, Spirit FM's Night of Love and Laughter, ABC's The Tamron Hall Show, Dry Bar Comedy, as well as solo performances. Please welcome my friend, Leslie Robb. Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Thank you for taking the time to be with me. What time is it where you at now?
It's 9:35 p.m.
And you are in Virginia, right?
Yeah, Northern Virginia, not too far from DC.
Oh, cool. So you fly out of Reagan or Dulles?
Yep, Reagan is my favorite. Or
Oh,
Dulles.
okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dulles is my second, but Reagan's my number one.
Yeah, but you know what? The other day I flew into Reagan, and I thought it's like the biggest airport in the area. I'm like, it's the capital. And
Yeah.
I get there, and the Hertz rental car is closed at 11. My flight got there at 12:30. So I go into the Hertz structure because I'm a gold member because, I've been President Circle because,
Yeah.
I travel a lot. I use their cars a lot. So I got in a car and started coming out, and they have it blocked and closed. So I had to back up all the way and park it right back and get out.
Oh
And it was the janitor guy. I go, what happened? He goes, there's nobody here till 11, till 7 in the morning tomorrow. I'm like, but I need a car. He goes, you can't get it out of here. So I
no.
had
Oh
Uber at 2 in the morning to get me to Baltimore. Took us like 2 hours, and then we
no.
were
Oh.
hungry. So the Uber guy took us to Del Taco, and it was
Oh.
just so. I'm not renting a car from Reagan.
No, definitely Dulles is the big one.
So Leslie, you were born. Then what happened?
Well, I was born actually where I live here.
And-
Born and raised in this area.
uh-huh.
So I am a high school teacher currently. I do stand-up comedy, and then the PD part that you mentioned is professional development, which is something that teachers have to do each year to get different type of certification credits. And so I teach those classes, but I teach them in a fun way. So that's just basically like a summary of me, in addition to being a speaker.
So tell me more the PD, the professional development. What do you mean? How do you?
Okay. So each year, teachers have to have a certain amount of professional development to be to continue teaching. So it's like different types of training for teachers. And so I created my own version of it. And then I started showcasing it, and then people started booking me. And so now I travel around doing that in addition to everything else.
I see. So you speak to teachers.
Yes. So I do
Okay.
keynote speaking, and then I do professional development training. So yeah.
So why a teacher? What made you want to become a teacher?
Honestly, it was my backup plan.
What was plan number one?
Yeah, it was my backup plan because I decided that I was like, teacher. I was like, oh, it's so basic. Everybody's a teacher. And so I was like, I'm going to be a pediatrician. Then I realized you have to do science and math for that. And I was like, just kidding. Teaching is great. It's perfect.
So what do you teach? I mean, what topics do you teach?
Okay, so I teach family and consumer sciences. It used to be called home ec, but we're not allowed to call it home ec anymore. Apparently, that's not politically correct. It's family and consumer sciences. But by the time I explain it, by the end of the conversation, I'm like, it's home ec.
Home ec is called?
Yep, home economics. So it used
Home
to
economics. So you cannot say it's not politically correct to say it home economics?
No.
Why not? Because
it gives an innuendo of female like a homemaker, the whole old school traditional roles of a woman. And so to move away from that, they now have it as family consumer sciences. So it's basically like teaching adulting 101. So we teach kids about budgeting, we teach them about parenting, we teach them about life skills, all different things like that.
So how long have you been teaching?
This is my 16th year of teaching.
16th year.
Yeah.
What have you changed? Just for people who are, what have changed with students in 16 years?
A myriad of things have changed in students. Things are a lot different than they used to be. And kids are a lot more brave than they used to be. Yeah. And not in a good way.
Brave in a bad way, like they tell you what they think.
What they think without a problem until they find out who I am and I tell them what I think. And then we have a better understanding.
So because I've been out of school for a long time, I've been out of youth ministry for a long time. I'm still like every Wednesday I do junior high. I'm a leader in junior high. So but the kids that I deal with at church, they're kind of nicer and kinder. But what is it like in public school where you teach?
The best part about me is I try to build a relationship and a rapport with my students right off the bat. So, usually I can win them over. Initially, it's like, fighting tooth and nail to try to get them to, adhere. But then once they realize that I love them and I'm there for them and I want them to feel seen and loved on and basically be, the cliche, the hands and feet of Jesus. Makes me sound more Christian. So being that for them and, their safe space to know that they're loved on and seen and appreciated. Because sometimes these kids, like their home life and the things they go through is mind blowing. So I want to be that happy place that they know they can go to, but also realistic uh, as well. So I try to make it a happy balance.
Now you have not, what do you call it? You cannot, of course, talk about your faith or being a believer in the school, can you?
No, no, no. That's strictly prohibited. But if a student asks you, answer the question. So there's
Mm.
lots of subtle ways that you can love on them and share without sharing, is what I call it. I always say it's like Mission Impossible. I'm the man on the inside. So,
That's awesome. Well. Also, I want you guys to know there's about 111 people watching right now. You can ask questions to about teaching, about comedy, about anything to Leslie. We'll try to answer it as we go.
yeah.
So, yeah, but I want to ask you this. So, when did you find? I mean, when did you find out you were funny? Where you notice you not people saying you're funny. You say to yourself, "I'm funny."
Well, I still question that sometimes.
Oh, me too.
Um, I question it all the time. And you know how it is. You have a good show, and you're like, ha, 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 I'm such a great comedian. And then you have a bad show, and you're like, this is the worst decision ever. you know? So, but what honestly, like growing up, I was always known as the silly one amongst my friends and family. But what most people didn't realize is I was bullied from the time I was in kindergarten through my high school years, through my junior year of high school. And so making them laugh was my way of coping. Because if I get them to laugh at them, maybe they would leave me alone for just a bit. Um, and so that was my way of coping. But then it became my calling. And they always say, that God will use your pain to enhance your purpose, and that's literally what He did. Because I was conditioned to shift myself immediately to fit my bully, so I can fit in. Well, that helps
Mm.
me when I'm on stage. I can read a room, and if a joke isn't going the right way, I can shift and adhere to the room. So it works out really well. Like I said, I wish I didn't have to go through the pain to get there, but you know,
But that's what
yeah,
That's what it took.
yeah,
It's always good. I remember I used because I moved from overseas from the Holy Land to Kuwait, and it was a new country, and I was a minority there. I've always used comedy and trying to be funny to avoid to be liked or to avoid being bullied. And you're right. But
yeah.
when was your first time on stage?
Well, believe it or not, you said Kuwait, and that's where God called me to comedies when I was living in Kuwait.
Okay, let's talk about Kuwait then. Before that, I actually went to school. I was 3 years old when I moved to Kuwait. I went to school there.
Did you go to public
Uh,
school or did you go to?
I went to a private school there.
Okay, I
And
taught in
so-
a private school there.
Which one?
American ASK, American School of Kuwait,
I
in
know
Hawaii.
exactly where it's at. We used to go and to meet people there.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
Hawaii.
but I went to an old boy private school called Al Jamil School, the beautiful one. Well,
Okay,
that
I was gonna say,
where the
Al Jameer sounds familiar.
yeah, yeah. So what years were you in Kuwait?
I was in Kuwait from 2015 through 2019.
Oh, okay.
About
So you
2019.
were you yes, what's his name? Mr. Rajab was the president of the owner of the school, the American school there.
Oh, was
Uh,
he?
Yes, I remember him. He was a friend of my uncle, and so I remember I had a lot of friends. We used to go to a club called the Gazelle Club, and we used to have a lot of people from the American school. So that's awesome. I know exactly you were in. I think it was Desman or Selwa or something.
Yeah,
Some
because Salmia wasn't far from there, but the school was mostly is in Hawaii.
Hawali. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I lived in Midan, Hawali, which is where
Oh yeah,
Abdullah
Megan
Salim.
Hawaii. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
It's so crazy to hear somebody talk
You know
about.
the high
Oh,
school there's the high school Abdullah Salim High School or wherever I
yeah,
was
yeah,
in
yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
So how did the heat treat you?
Oh my gosh. Once I got used to it, and then trying to get used to the heat and the driving in Kuwait was it
Yeah.
was a whole
Oh,
thing in and of itself.
you don't want to drive there because cars people are crazy. Just
Yeah, I drove all the time.
wow.
All
So
the time. I got my driver's license in Kuwait.
Are you serious? So
Yeah.
why did you choose Kuwait to go? Were you with the military or what?
Well, no. I wanted to travel and see the world, but I couldn't afford it as a teacher. But if I taught and did it, then I was able to travel around the world. So that's what I did. I started teaching and I applied to different places. And Kuwait, wanted me to come in, and so that's what I did.
Oh, that's funny. That's
I
funny.
taught there for almost 4 years. Yeah, I would have
You,
taught there longer, but then COVID started to hit, and I'm like, I gotta go home.
you gotta go. You
I
know
gotta
what?
go home.
Probably COVID would have been dead in Kuwait with the
Oh my
heat. Those
god.
those viruses won't last too long.
Oh my gosh, it was craziness.
But people don't understand this. Like when in Kuwait, like in the summertime, you don't go outside. You just go from the house to the car that's already air conditioned and
Airconditioned.
started, and
Mhm.
it's built different than they build them in the U.S.
Oh
Because
yeah,
if you take a car from the U.S. and take it to Kuwait, your whole dashboard will melt
it's
the
done.
next
The
day.
dashboard melts. Mhm.
So it was so hard. So you jump from one place to another, and it's all air conditioned, and you don't
Mhm.
go outside. And
Yep.
once in a while, the sandstorm hits, and all the janitors hate their life in Kuwait.
Yes, it's so bad.
Oh,
My
that's
apartment would be thick with sand.
so. How did people treat you in Kuwait,
Well, it's
or were
funny.
you just surrounded by Americans?
Well, we have a lot of Americans, but we also had our school service the Americans. It serviced a lot of the diplomatic families from various countries, as well
Yes.
as the royal family. So we had the Al Sabah family in our class.
Yeah.
So literally, so we had their grandchildren in our class, and so it was an experience because once the Kuwaitis knew that you were American, you
They
got more
treat you right.
respect because there's a caste system that's based on what country you're from. So
Yes.
initially, I remember one lady asked me, "What part of Ghana are you from?" I was like, "I've never been to Africa." Um, I said, and then I started talking, and she's like, American. I was like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they treat you nicer.
And then they treat you nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny how people don't understand this, but in you go it, there's different levels of like
Oh
depending on where
yeah.
you're from.
Nationality.
Yeah, we were number two. I was in number two, so we made it okay. We were not the Kuwaitis, and then the Americans were also in the top one and two, between one and two. They
Yeah.
were so
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
it's sad, but that's a reality that they have other different nationalities that
Yeah, and people don't realize that Kuwait is really westernized. Like I was across the street from Texas Roadhouse and Cheesecake Factory.
yeah
Like,
they
like
have the
you're not roughing it.
exactly you were roughing it. So
I had a maid because you know how
you
that is.
yeah you're roughing
Maids are
it.
everywhere.
So tell me, so you went to Kuwait, you came back, and when was it the first time you went actually on stage as a comedian?
Okay, so I was prior to going to Kuwait, I did my first show at a local church in 2013. Um,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And then I did it. And then one of the jokes that I had done were all clean, all Christian based. But one of the ladies in the audience was just appalled that there was comedy in a church, and so it like freaked me out because I was like, oh my goodness, can't do this because I'm a chicken, and so I backed up. But when I was
Mm,
in Kuwait, I remember God reminding me like, this is what I called you to do. Like, you got to do it. Like you don't get a
mm,
choice.
right.
So I got back into it and I hit my first stage. Believe it or not again until 2019. I
Wow.
came back from Kuwait at what is it, CCA, when they did it in Wiley, Texas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was
Okay.
my first real stand up set.
And how did you feel about it?
I was terrified. I literally was so hard on myself. But after I was done, I remember like one of the first people I saw getting off stage was Robert G. Lee.
Uh-huh.
And he told me, he's like, great set, great job. And I was like, what? I didn't even know. I was like, I think I blacked out up there. I could barely remember what I said, but apparently it was good.
But no, if Robert Gilly told you you're good, you're good.
I know,
It's
right?
good.
I mean,
Yeah,
literally.
Robert. He's the writer for the comedians. He is the best guy.
Exactly.
So you went up on stage and you just you got scared, you felt that. But so you were a teacher still. And when did that tour thing started where they said, oh, now before I say that, were you, I'm sure you were funny in class to the point that the students love you for that, right?
Well, I try. Some of my students are like, Miss Rob. I've
Good.
gotten funnier over the years. I've improved, is what they say. Uh, but it's actually a funny situation. All of this came as a result of Christian Comedy Association. All of
Really?
my entire comedy career is because of Christian Comedy Association. I know it sounds
How's
like, well,
that?
Jesus. It's because of Jesus, because we got to put that in there.
Of course.
But the Christian Comedy Association, in addition to that. So here, I'll tell you, when I was in Kuwait, I was scrolling Instagram and I saw Peppy Garrett. I don't know if you know Peppy. And so Peppy was in the Christian Comedy Association, but I didn't know any of that. All I know is that she was a Christian comedian. I had never really seen that outside of Shonda. And
Right.
so I messaged her on Instagram, was like, you're living my dream. I wish that was something I could do. She's like, well, why aren't you doing it? Just that simple. Why aren't you doing it? And I was like, I don't know why I'm not doing it. And so she's like, check out this page. It was a Facebook page for Christian Comedy Association. And she's like, try to get to the conference. I was like, I'm just moving back from Kuwait. And, moving back overseas, it's so expensive. And I was like, I didn't have the money to do it. So so when I joined the Facebook group, I put my name out there for a roommate and a lady named Joey Savage.
Yeah.
She decided to ask me, she said I could share a room with her. And get this, that I said, okay, I can't pay you right away, but I'll try. And she's like, it's okay, we'll figure it out. And I was like, now I just have to figure out a flight. Well, that week, she had just started working for American Airlines. And she got me a ticket for free. And usually it takes weeks and months to get
Right.
your discounts. She just so happened to ask, and they gave her a free ticket for me to get to CCA. I got to CCA. I met Rhonda Corey. Apparently, Rhonda said I met her then. I don't remember meeting her then, but she said I did. And Rhonda and I hit it off a CCA later. And but I don't remember this. And so Rhonda is the one who told me to get in contact with her friend that's a teacher comedian. I was like, a teacher comedian? Like, what's that? Well, apparently her friend is connected to Bored Teachers, which is the #1 teacher entertainment comedy circuit there is. And they're huge. And so she got me in, which got me to where I'm at.
Wow. So tell us about those tours, the Board Teachers Tour. What is that like?
So the Bored Teachers Comedy Tour, believe it or not, was sitting with teacher friends a year prior, about 2 years ago in the Teachers Lounge. And I said, guys, I know I've made it if I can make it to the Bored Teachers Comedy Tour. And once all this happened, these connections with Rhonda, and then it got me onto the tour. I'm telling you, it is mind-blowing. These big stages and thousands upon thousands of people. And it's funny because I started off with Bored Teachers in theaters, and then I didn't do my first comedy club until this past summer. And so I remember going into the comedy club and sitting next to comedians and being like, I'm so nervous. I've never done a comedy club before. I've only done theaters. Well, let's just say I didn't get any nice looks when I said that.
Yeah, they thought you're bragging.
Yeah,
So you were used to the big audience, like thousands of audience, and now you're doing a comedy club with 200-300 people. And it's a whole different dynamic. Now,
they thought I was bragging, but I just didn't know any better.
Now, do they pay you guys for this teachers?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you get paid good.
We just show up. Literally, they pay us well, and they pay for our flights. They pay for our hotel. They take good care of us. Like, we pay for nothing. We just show up.
Perfect. And how many teachers are on the show?
So it varies. So it varies between 4 and 5 teacher comics per show.
I see. And now, are they all funny or?
Yeah, they are definitely selective in their people. Don't know how I got there, but
Oh, I see. Oh, they select them both on the variety of different person.
Yeah. There's a total of I think 20 of us, and then they pick 4 and 5 per show.
Per show.
And so they just finished the Canada run, and so they're back in the States right now. And I don't hop on the tour this time until September.
Oh, okay. And how many dates do you do with them?
So before I was doing all summer, I did, oh my gosh, so many dates last summer. But this year they're taking a step back because they don't have to do as many. And so now they're breaking it up. So now this year I'm only gonna do 4 for the fall.
I see. And now, is this for teachers only, or it's open to the whole audience,
Now it's
family?
open to everyone, but the comedians are teachers.
Okay, and you have to be a teacher. You keep your credentials to be on the show.
Exactly. So you either have
Wow.
to be currently teaching or former teacher.
Now, how first time you went on that tour, and how much time did you have to do?
I had 25 minutes, I think, or 15 or 25 minutes. I can't remember. I think it was 25.
So, how did you come up with 25 minutes in the beginning?
Oh my goodness. It was hard because I'd only done like clean Christian-ish. And like I say Christian lightly because I don't do like, hey,
Yeah,
Matthew
we're
and
not Noah
Paul
jokes,
walk into a
right?
bar. You know, it's just clean comedy. And so what I did is I pulled from my clean set and then tried to just infuse teacher stuff in there.
Uh-huh.
Now my set is more teacher than it is even just your basic comedy. So
Wow. Have you ever had a fight with a parent?
now here, the parents. Now people say that it's the kids. It's not the kids that's the hard part of teaching. It's the parents.
Any
They
funny
are
stories?
craziness.
Any crazy story?
Well, not that I can recall. The worst one that I can recall is a mom when I taught kindergarten who was
Uh-huh.
convinced that her son was more than capable of doing high level work and he couldn't even write or read basics. Like when it came to kindergarten, just your basic letters he couldn't do. So the mom and I kept butting heads on what he could and couldn't do. And heaven forbid the parents think that their behavior is not something that's reflected at home. They would never do that. You
No.
know, that's always the worst is when parents are in denial.
So, what age group right now are you teaching? What?
High school, because I've done
Ooh,
all grade levels, and high school is my sweet spot.
that's their sweet spot because
Yeah.
they can, they like your personality, your comedy, and they
Yeah.
can relate to
And they're
you.
easy to reason with. Like middle school, the smell was terrible. Okay, I had to let middle schoolers go. I did it for 1 year, can't do it again. I did kindergarten and first grade, and then I did adult ed as well. But high school is my sweet spot.
Adult ed, what is that? Are you teaching adults?
Yeah, so I was teaching adults who did not graduate high school. I was
Oh,
teaching adult high school, so GED program.
oh, I see.
So
People should.
I felt out all age groups to see where I fit, and high school is definitely where I fit.
Now, how woke is the school now to where you like if you say something
Oh,
that's
it's so woke.
it's
I
so
mean,
woke?
it's so woke. It sleepwalks. I mean, it's woke. So yeah. So you just have to be very careful in what you say and how you say it. And there's ways around things, of course,
Uh,
um, strategically, to make sure that you're still within reason, if that makes sense.
right, right. So, what is your dream, Leslie? What do you dream? What is
My
God's dream
dream
for you?
is to travel around and do comedy and just bring joy to people. Because I know that life is it's kicking us all around. And I want to bring joy to people in whatever capacity that looks like, which is why I'm so big on, bringing something daily for people to laugh about or smile about on my social media, which is like, that's a connection to the world now.
Right.
And anybody who isn't on social media, it's like wasting free marketing. So I try to get in there and make somebody smile or laugh. So if I can leave people better than I found them, that's the goal.
That is awesome. Now, how did you come to know Jesus?
I was born and raised in church, like born and raised with my hands up. So my mom was not playing with us. She had us in church from the time we were born but I was always going to church, but I didn't always know Jesus. And so being born and raised in church, I ended up getting exposure obviously to God's grace, but I didn't fully understand God's grace, believe it or not, until just a few years ago because
Mm,
I grew up in a very legalistic background where you had to check all these boxes and earn your way, but I never fully understood grace. And
mm.
once I fully understood grace, it's like a whole new aspect, a whole new relationship with God, that's based on the foundation of grace versus the foundation of works. So It's been a
Wow.
blessing.
And what caused that? What got you to that point?
Well, honestly, I started to question the things that I was raised to believe because I couldn't find biblical sound doctrine for it. And so, if you don't do this, this, and the other, well, you risk going to hell. And if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. And if you dare question it, well, then you're letting the devil use you. And so it messed with my head. It literally, almost in a sense of, and I use this word cautiously, but almost a sense of brainwashing, like
Right.
to the point where I literally was so scared to challenge my faith or question it. But I remember going to college at a Southern Baptist school called Liberty University. Not sure if you're
Oh,
familiar.
yes.
Yeah, I went to Liberty. That was where I went to undergrad. And I remember having a professor that said the unexamined faith is not faith worth having. And so that started the wheels turning. But then again, in questioning my faith, I was always told that you're letting the devil use you. So I was always cautious. But then a few years ago, it's like God just started to deal with me and help me to like peel back the layers and learn God for myself. So trying to just like put aside what I believe, what I was raised to believe, and realize what I truly believe and hear from God Himself. So.
That's awesome. What is your writing process like as a comedian? What is it? What's your routine? How do you do that?
Well, I wish I had a process.
And you're a teacher, so I thought you have
Yeah,
order of.
you would think,
Yeah, I
but
would
not
think
quite.
so.
So basically, what I do is I carry around a joke book actually with me everywhere I go. I keep it in my backpack all the time. It's so funny that you brought it up because it's right here next to me. I always keep it with me, and these tabs have different things like that I find funny. And then in those tabs, I write down jokes to add to that section, so that I know that goes with what section of jokes.
Mm,
So
that's
like
the
if I'm at school and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is hilarious. I write it down and then shift it to cut it up and make it punchy for the stage.
Susie Stevens said, Leslie, you were so funny a few days ago when I watched you on my phone.
Oh
And,
wow!
and Becky from Louisiana said, what a great dream. Love your heart, Leslie.
Oh,
So
thank you.
that's awesome. Leslie, when we were at the CCA, Christian Comedy Association last year, I know I only came in for one day to speak, but
Yeah,
I was so fortunate to hear part of what you shared. And you talked about growing up with that, that there's anxiety. Can you tell us more? Because some people can be, really can touch people right now, and take your time talking about it. Just you can open up with it.
yeah. So what I like to do is always to share my story. And I literally, from the time I was in kindergarten through my junior year of high school, was bullied by the same group of bullies because, if you don't move, neither do your bullies. And so from kindergarten through my junior year of high school, I was bullied um, by a certain group of kids that not only included kids I didn't know, but also my family members and people I thought were friends of mine. So clearly, in my head, I felt there was something wrong with me. And so I became very depressed. I would not look in the mirror. Normal teen girls looking in the mirror. Da, da, da. I wouldn't look in a mirror. I had little to no self esteem. And so then I went off to college and I tried to get as far away as I could get. And so I went to a college about 7 hours away where I didn't know anybody and I wanted to start fresh. So once I got to college, that first week of classes, the football players started bullying me.
Mm,
So I clearly felt there's something seriously wrong with me. And so that led to, self deprivation, and not in a positive way in any form of the word. But also, it made me get to a point where I literally felt so depressed to the point where I was willing just to marry whoever. And so I ended up getting married to a guy I met maybe 3 or 4 times in person before I even met
mm,
him. But I was so depressed that I was like, well, nobody else is going to take me, so I just have to take what I can get. And then I got to a point where I was so depressed in 2017. I stood up in church and I said, I just want to die. I just want God to take me out. Like, because I was like, I'm not going to commit suicide, God, but if you could just let me die, please just let me die. And he basically said no, like that wasn't his will for me.
mm.
Um, that he wanted me to take all the negativity in my life that I've experienced, place it under my feet, and allow it to prop me up into my place of purpose, is what he said. And so that's what I did is I turned all of that negativity and used my comedy to bring joy to people. And then once I got outside of myself, I got the help I needed for myself. And
Mm.
so that started to build onto enhancing and helping my mental health. I still struggle daily with my mental health. It is a daily fight with my anxiety and my depression. Depression I have a little bit more than anxiety, but I do battle both of those things. Now, in the Christian world, I want to just emphasize that a lot of times we're like, okay, God will heal us, God will heal us, but sometimes His will is not to heal us. But there is purpose in it. There's purpose in the reason that He has not healed you. And so I encourage you in whatever situation of your mental health that you struggle with, if God has not saw fit to heal you, trust me, there is a purpose in it. You just have to seek Him and His will for it. And so for me, it has been to make it more known and make aware that you can love Jesus and your therapist. Like you can love both of those things. Because a lot of times, we get into a concept of being able to pray it away when it comes to our mental health. And sometimes that's just not the case. But, God has put these people and these things into practice, into place for us to be able to get the help that we need. Because mental health is a struggle for so many, not just Christians, but people in general, especially in the toxic world that we live in right now. And so it's just something that I'm passionate about. And so at the end of my comedy set, I share my story usually if I'm doing a show at a church, and then I will share my testimony. But then I encourage people to get the help they need for their mental health, and to make mental health awareness out there, and to share with them that I still struggle daily. And guess what? You're not any less Christian. You're not any less saved if you struggle with mental health. And so that's just like my little tidbit.
So how do you deal with it? Like, let's say you have some depression, you have to go to school, you have to teach, you have to be up there, and to have. How do you deal with that?
Now, here's the thing. So when it comes to me personally, and for a lot of people that I've talked to that
Right.
struggle with mental health, the concept is to understand that guess what? There are going to be bad days. It's just it comes with the territory. And but there's a verse in Ecclesiastes that talks about like in the good days and the bad. Guess what? Even though it's a bad day, it's still a God day. It may not be a good day, but it's always a God day because God is with you on the good days and in the bad. And so that's how I try to keep in mind. Like if it's a really bad mental health day and I'm at work, honestly, sometimes I am transparent with my students because they need to also see that just because I'm a teacher, just because I'm an adult, does not mean I have it all together. And so a lot of times they'll say, guys, today is a mental health day, a struggle for mental health today with Miss Rob. And then the kids are inclined to share. Oh my goodness, like that they've been struggling because we've had so many kids commit suicide due to mental health
Oh yeah.
lately. So many students lately. We just had another student commit suicide last week.
Oh, that's
Um,
so sad.
Dealing with mental health. And so when you as a teacher can be transparent, and with caution, of course, and with
Right.
wisdom, wisely be transparent. And so I'm big on transparency transforms hearts and changes minds. And so when we're transparent, then people see that they're not alone in their struggles. They're not alone in what they're going through. And that, other people can relate. And so I tell the kids to we can lean on each other, and so that's oftentimes, how I deal with it is I'm just transparent, I'm honest, but at the same time, I just understand and accept that some days will just be bad days. Not every day, but there are some bad days.
And you know what? That's amazing because I can see where some students who are struggling with it are comforted and knowing, and the ones that don't are appreciate your honesty about it, and they're like, okay, I better leave it alone today, or I better, yeah.
Mhm.
That is amazing. Becky wrote, an elderly minister always gave this advice: get outside of yourself; it will help you.
I
You
say
know,
that all the time.
that's easier said than done, Leslie
It's so
and Becky.
true. It's so
It's
true.
so hard, especially. I'll tell you what. I just when you're a comedian, you and your chances are you're insecure.
Hmm.
So
Oh
you're always looking at the world from your glasses.
yeah.
You're comparing the world to you. So you either feel good or you feel horrible.
Oh yeah.
And to try to remove yourself, and it's like it's a struggle. It's not.
Oh,
It's
it's so hard.
but that's amazing that you're able to really take something that some people it will cripple some people. You're using it not only to help yourself, but you're actually helping a whole generation of high schoolers. That is amazing. Plus, what you do on stage, uh, being able to after the show. I taught comedy. I have students who are doing full-time comedy right now,
Yeah.
and one thing that I talk about, you have to be vulnerable on stage. People don't care if you're nice, they care if you're vulnerable, if you're open.
Yes.
And when you open up and share your struggle, they love you, they become fans, groupies. It doesn't matter how funny you are, which you are funny. I mean, I'm not saying, but when they can relate to you, when I think our job as comedians sometimes is to verbalize what people feel embarrassed to say or don't want to
Oh
say
yes.
or can't say
Mhm.
it. And once they do that, and I see that in you, you're able. That is amazing. It's amazing. Um, have you? What is there something embarrassing or funny happen when you were doing the tours, or when you're doing the comedy tours? Anything embarrassing?
Let's see. I can't think of anything specific that was embarrassing. It's because I'm such an open book that like I'm always like, and I laugh it off.
Yeah.
So it's very little that I get embarrassed about. I probably own way too much. Because like it cracks me up when we're on tour and I'm just like I'm like, hey, if anybody needs to say anything or anybody wants something said, I'll do it. Like I'm the one who's like, when they're like, oh, we need a host to get out and hype everybody up and be silly and and like get out there and just hype them up and have fun and like be goofy and whatever. It's very hard for me to get embarrassed. So I'm the person who's like, woo, so it doesn't take much.
That's amazing. You bring joy to people. When I was around you, it's like you feel this joy, and I love that about you because people didn't know what you going through.
Yeah,
They
see,
have
a
no
lot of
clue. They
people
go,
are
"Oh, God, this
shocked.
woman just having fun all day long." Those people, they have no clue what life is like, and that's what they say. They go, "These people are funny. They're joking. They don't know what life is all about. They don't know." But-
Yeah, it cracks me up. I tell people all the time, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you have so much. There's so much joy. You bring so much joy to people. You are always so happy and so jolly." I'm like, "You miss the days where I'm laying in bed and it's in the dark and I'm in bed all day long, depressed." So, like, trust me, it's not all sunshine.
I
Definitely not.
I
And I see Chris Rossetti. He helped me go to CCA one year. He paid
I
for me.
love. Oh,
He
I
paid for me
love.
to go to CCA one year.
Rossetti have a biggest heart. I
He
love him. I
did.
miss when I did my daily show. I used to talk to him a lot, and now I've been guilty of not keeping up with my fans and friends, especially
Well,
since
yeah,
October, since the whole situation in Israel and Gaza.
of
It
course.
just, I just, like you said, in face, social media, that's the way we communicate with people. I haven't been able to
Exactly.
communicate. I told my social media guy, I said, don't post anything except podcast or where I'm gonna be. Don't put anything funny, don't put anything. I'm not going out and talking. And I was like, I want to do something. But it's just amazing. So what's what are you working on? Right, are you writing a book? What are you working on?
Okay, so I'm the teacher who hates reading.
I didn't say read a book. I said write a book.
What would I have to read what I wrote?
No, you don't. I haven't read what I wrote. That's why you have either a ghostwriter or you have a publisher who would read it for you.
Yeah, I
And
will say I did write a book and publish it when I was in Kuwait.
you did.
Yeah, I
What
did.
was it about?
It was a devotional.
You did a devotional in a Muslim country like Kuwait.
I had it printed and in one of the Indian guys, he owned a print shop, and so I
Mhm.
got him to print them for me. And so I took them home to the States to distribute and sell.
Devotions.
It was a devotional, yeah.
How many devotions did you have in it?
Oh, I think it was 20. I think it was like one of like the 21 day type of thing.
Oh, that's
If I
awesome.
can remember, because I think it was like 21 days. Like 21 days usually is what they say takes you to do a habit. So I think I did 21 days.
Yeah.
I think.
That's good. Now, how did you practice your Christian? When I was in Kuwait, I was a Greek Orthodox Christian by name, I wasn't walking with the Lord, so I didn't know what was Christianity like in Kuwait. I know it was in, it was a Muslim country and all that. But how did you handle it?
Now, Kuwait isn't as bad as like Saudi and
Right.
Iraq and Iran, so you're still not free to be Christian. So basically, you can't solicit.
Oh,
So there's Christian churches all over Kuwait, usually in basements. We would meet
yeah.
in basements. There's some large churches in Kuwait. But get this, I don't know if you're familiar with this. There was a missionary who was in Kuwait years and years ago. I think it was like in the 70s. I think it was
Mm,
the 70s. I could be wrong. And and you know how in the Muslim faith, like if a dead body's buried there, that's a no. Like,
yeah.
so he had himself buried in one section of Kuwait. And so in that section now is the compound of all Christian churches. So
Oh, I heard of that
yeah.
compound. Yeah.
So now it's a compound there of all Christian churches surround around based on where this missionary was. And so on this compound, it's all Christian churches there.
Because the Muslim will not
They
be there. They don't. Yeah,
no,
they don't want to be
not
there.
really that.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So there's a compound there of all Christian churches. Now there are other Christian churches throughout Kuwait, but also held in basements, etc. But most of definitely never signage, no signage, no
Yeah.
soliciting, none of that. Yeah, you still have
Right.
to be careful.
I remember around Easter and Christmas, we'd go to the Greek Orthodox Church, and plus
Oh yeah.
no signs, no nothing.
No, 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 no.
Yeah. No. W- how can people get a hold of you, Leslie?
Well, I'm on social media, on all social media platforms as Leslie Rob Comedy. I post daily. So you always feel free to hop in the messages or comments or however else. But they you can also go to my website and that has everything on it. My email, my contact, so everything is on my website at leslierob.com.
LeslieRob.com.
Yep. LeslieRob.com has
No.
everything on there. From social media to contacting me to my email, everything's at leslierob.com.
Perfect. And you can, I want to encourage people, Leslie, not only a comedian, but she shares her stories. She can teach, she can lift people up. So if your church needs for your women's retreat or
Yeah.
your women's conference for, maybe for high school events, she's perfect.
You
And she's
present?
all, yeah, or anything else. Go to leslierob.com or Leslie Rob Comedy on social media,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to get a hold of her and be able to see how you can book her or follow her, or her new book will be coming out next year this time. uh y- yes, she will, and I'll be
Oh my
following up
God,
with her. You know how
congratulations.
many people I had them write their books because I put them
Oh,
under yeah.
I
So
cannot stand it.
Leslie Rob book is going to encourage so many people how to deal as a comedian with depression and anxiety, and still be hilariously funny and encourage people. I mean, shoot, I will read that book right now.
Oh,
So you need to start
yeah.
writing. Publishers, my friends who are watching and listening, I know there's two publishers that listen to that podcast. Hey, Leslie, get her a ghostwriter because she can't read her writing. And she's
Exactly.
a teacher that cannot read. God help
Exactly.
America. God help us.
Exactly.
Oh man, I wish you were my teacher when I was little. I mean, you wouldn't be, but in heaven, maybe. Yeah, we'll do that because you're amazing, and
Oh,
I love
thank
your
you.
heart. I love how you like to help people, and may the Lord just bless you and continue to bless your career and your life.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. And guys, Susie Stevens gonna buy your book, and I know Susie can afford to buy a case and hand it to all her friends, and I will buy a case myself. I promise you. So
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
serious, Leslie. Get on it. Get on
Oh
it.
man. I'll think about it.
Well, if you start writing tomorrow and say, this is what you're going to do. You're going to say, okay, if I write a book, what would it be on? So you come up with the title,
Okay.
and you say, right, what is it going to be? Who is it going to be for? Well, it's going to be for people, mostly for people who are having depression, anxiety, and don't know how to deal with it. Number two
True.
is going to be for teachers because I teach, I encourage teachers. Also, it's going to be for comedians what comedians don't read, but it's for people who want something funny in the book. So they want to read something funny. So now you're helping them and you're entertaining them. So you go, what would be the chapters? Well, the chapters like the bullying years, how I handled it. That's one chapter. Number two, in Kuwait, being living in Kuwait, teaching in Kuwait, you
Yeah.
do all that. You know, number three, being a teacher in the capital of the United States of America, the number one. You know what I mean? That's a big deal. You know,
True.
because there's teachers all over the world that would read it. Hey,
I
this is
mean, true. That's so. You're not saying anything my followers don't say all the time.
okay. So I'm already at chapter three right now. I've already written 70 pages.
Oh my gosh.
See, what do you? I'm gonna keep up on it.
Okay.
I want to see next CCA, not this one. The next
Okay. Yeah,
CCA.
not this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure comedians buy one. All right. Well,
Okay.
Bobby Miller said it would be for me. I can't wait. That's
Oh,
good.
that's
Here we
awesome.
go. Here we go. Already coming soon. Leslie Rob book spring signing tour by Chris
Oh my
Rossetti.
god.
See, we just started it.
That's so hilarious.
I'll do the forward for you. How about
Oh
that?
my gosh. I would love that.
Okay, well, let's do that. Well, God bless you. Thank you for taking the
Thank
time,
you.
Leslie. And just hang on 1 second. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching, all 112 of you. I know Facebook didn't do full letting everybody know, but thank you for watching. And please let your friends know. If you know anybody who has a child or they're going through depression and anxiety, I mean, that would be a great podcast to have them listen to. And you can subscribe to it. And I want to thank all of you who joined in with us and listened to us. So I would just want to wish you guys a happy Resurrection Day. Don't get, distracted by anything but the Lord rose from the dead. And if it weren't for Christ rising from the dead, our whole Christian faith wouldn't mean anything. That's how powerful that is. So I pray that this resurrection week, that you would draw close to the Lord, that you would really understand His love for you. Because uh, if you look at the cross, you know that cross that normally should be a death sentence, an execution tool, that God turned it into a symbol of His love to us. So I pray that you would draw close to the Lord. I pray that you'd be able to invite your friends to a Bible teaching church, because they're open around Easter to hear about the Lord. So it would be a great opportunity to invite all your friends. I want to encourage you, if you don't have a home church, if you've been mad at church because of some Christians offended you, it's not about it's not about the players. It's about the game. It's about the the author of that Christianity, and he will never offend you. Well, he'll offend your sinful stuff, but he loves you. And so I pray that you would find a church, a home church. Just go to a Bible teaching church and just give God another chance, because he never went far from you. You're the one who did. So I want to encourage you to go back to him if you don't have a church home. If you have young children and you're not at church, and you live in the US, come on, what are you doing? What are you doing? You need to plug your kids into church so they can grow with people, with young people around them. At least they have some family values that are consistent with your family, with your family values. So please go to church, go to a Bible teaching church, not the one that teach you about motivation and about politics and about all this. Go to a church that teaches the word of God, and that's what you need. All right. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the podcast. I'll see you next week. Have a great one. Good night.